If you have a big responsibility on your shoulder, then I'm going to speak directly to you. Let's get real today. Let's acknowledge that you are too hard on yourself. Like not just hard, but too hard. You expect more, push harder, and demand better from yourself than anybody else. And no matter what you accomplish, in your mind, it's never enough. That's who you are. And you think that is what makes you successful. That is holding yourself to an impossible standard is the price of greatness. But from my work with many leaders, many CEOs like yourself, let me tell you something upfront. Let me tell you in the no nonsense way that I do my work that you're not growing. You're only destroying yourself. Slowly, you're sabotaging yourself. And the same drive that got you here is now the thing that is holding you back. Because instead of learning, adjusting, and moving forward, you just spend too much time beating yourself up for not being perfect. And I know that because I have done that. I still do that until I catch myself. And I see this all the time, right? The reason somebody becomes a high performing CEO or a high performer, it's the same reason which brought them to where they are today, which becomes the reason for their downfall later on. Everybody is playing the same twisted game. They hit a new milestone, but instead of celebrating, they just obsess over the next big thing. They think about what they missed, what they could have done differently, rather than celebrating the victory that they just created. It's never like, I made that happen. Like, let me be proud, let me slow down, celebrate. It is always, I should have done it better. I could have done it faster. Oh, I missed that. Oh, this happened. I should have seen that coming. Does that sound familiar to you? If it does, then certainly keep watching. Because this mindset is not making you stronger, even if you think so, even if it has been drilled into you. And many times it has been drilled into us through the cultures that we live in. The truth is that it's keeping you stuck. Your self-criticism is only slowing you down. I'll share an example, right? I was coaching a CEO last week. She had built something very incredible. She had scaled her company, led a high-stakes project, and kept her team together in the middle of all this chaos. But when she sat down in front of me, she was not proud. She was, in fact, exhausted. She told me that like she keeps making the same mistakes again and again. And there was one sentence which really hit me, that I should have known better by now. That's a massive beating stick for yourself. If you say that I should have known better by now, I should have learned my mistakes by now, why am I still not learning? That's a huge beating stick. And I asked her, if your best friend was in your position, what would you tell her? And that made her slow down. And she said that I would tell her that she did her best, that she is doing an incredible job and she needs to stop being so hard on oneself. Isn't it crazy when we look at ourselves from a third person point of view? We get so much respect. But then why the hell don't you do that to yourself? Right? And she was silent for a while because she knew, right? We all know if we slow down that we are chasing an imaginary version of ourselves that never makes mistakes, that never struggles, and that can never afford a moment to breathe and celebrate, that always have to be busy for the next thing. Otherwise, the whole ship will crumbling down. That's not leadership. Like that's very frankly, that's torture, that's self-inflicted pain, punishment. And you might think that beating oneself up makes you stronger, but it doesn't. It only slows you down. It only exhausts you. It makes it unsustainable. Like you're not here for the short term. You're here for the long term. So beating yourself up might work in a quarter, might work in a year. But if you think about 5 years, 10 years, beating yourself up and being hard on yourself only slows you down until you self-destruct. And every time you second guess yourself, every time you judge yourself for what you did or what you did not do, that's very easy to do in hindsight. But you lose energy every time you judge yourself. And that's energy that you could use to build your business. That's energy you could use to listen to your team. That's energy you could use to take a bold decision. And the mental space that you fill with all the guilt and overwhelm, that is the space that you could be using to think creatively, to think about your next bold move, your next ask. You're not getting ahead by making everything harder than it needs to be. The question is not what to do now. The question is that if you want to go bigger, if you want to play at the highest level, you need to first of all stop acting like your own worst enemy. And here is who you need to be. See, more than what you need to do, here is who you need to be. You need to be the person who gives themselves some space and some grace. You will make mistakes. You will, because you have blind spots just like everybody else. So you will mess up, especially when you take on something big. The faster you treat yourself with compassion, the faster you forgive yourself, the faster you can move forward and the lighter you can move forward. And instead of punishing, you need to see every failure as a feedback. So you need to see even in those moments when you're getting a no, when you're not succeeding, you're still learning, you're still getting better. You're still getting better the next moment. So you can still cheer that. You can still acknowledge that. And you need to become the founder who trusts their own process. Like growth sounds messy. Leadership is uncomfortable. If you expect perfection from yourself, you will never take the risks. And you will also expect perfection from others, which will slow them down as well. You need to become the person who celebrates wins, who looks backwards and say, how far I have come, not just look forward and say, how far do I have to go? So the challenge that you have is to change the conversation in your head. What is happening on the outside will happen on the outside, but this week I want you to catch yourself. Every time you start tearing into yourself, every time you beat yourself up, I want you to notice that thought whenever it comes up, like I should have done better. Notice it and replace it with what is real. Like I did the best I could with what I knew. Like, no, you are not deliberately trying to sabotage your company. You're not deliberately making mistakes. So instead, choose a thought which is more aligned with reality, that you did the best you could in that moment and this happened. Now you can do the same thing again. And ask yourself a better question rather than why did I mess up? Why did I not learn my lesson? Ask yourself a better question, like something like, what is the next move? What can I learn from here? How can I make sure this never happens again? See, here is the thing. If you want to have a high impact, if you want to sustain yourself for a long time, like very frankly, you don't have time for self-pity. And every time you get stuck in guilt, regret, or shame, you lose momentum. And momentum in business, in leadership is everything. I get it. You have big goals. I know. I have been there. And you expect a lot from yourself, right? That's amazing. That is something to be proud of. But if you don't start giving yourself the same respect and grace that you give to others, then you're going to burn yourself out before you ever reach your true potential. So ask yourself, do you want to be the leader who keeps moving? Or do you want to be the leader who keeps beating themselves up? Pick one and then act accordingly. It's a simple choice and it's a moment by moment choice. It's not an objective to achieve. You will never get fully there. Nobody gets it. But it's a choice which you can choose in any second, any moment. So choose carefully